Alright, quiz review for Unit 4. Simplify the expressions. Remember, for 1 through 4, you're not going to have any plus-minus answers because we're not solving equations. You do want to pay attention that this is a negative. Hold on, let me change my marker. Alright, so that means we are going to have an I for an answer. So we're still going to break down 252 using the green charts on our desks. And that's going to break down to negative 36 and 7. 36 times 7 is 252. So bring out the square root of 36 is 6. The negative becomes I, and we end up with root 7. Number 2, same thing. We have a negative here. So we're going to break this down into negative 25 and 6. Obviously square roots. Don't forget this 6 out here. Remember, you might want to draw something down to remind you. So this is going to become 5i root 6, but we need to multiply by 6 and get 30i root 6. So don't forget that number sitting outside. Alright, so outside times outside, which is just the number 1. And then we can do inside times inside. That's one option, all right? But that's going to give you a pretty big number to break down. So I personally think it's better to simplify these first. So we're going to have 2i. Why will this not go away? There we go. 2i times 32 breaks down to 16 and 2. So that's root 16 times root 2. And then this is going to break down to root negative 4 root 3. Now, this is just going to be 4. Right? So that's going to give us 8i root 2 times negative 4 is going to be 2i root 3. Now we do outside times outside. 16i squared times root 6. Inside times inside. Now remember, I squared is really negative 1. So that's going to give us negative 16 root 6. Again, you can multiply 48 times 180, but that's going to give you a pretty big number. So my suggestion is to break it down to 16 and 3 and 36 and 5. And again, just use the green charts on the desks. If you're at home looking at this, this is in your unit notes. You have the breakdown of the numbers also. So this is 4 root 3 times 6 root 5, which gives you 24 root 15. Okay, number 5. It says factor each expression. So this is a pretty easy one to do, guess and check. This has to be 2x and 1x because 2 is prime. And now for 12, you're going to use either 1 and 12, 2 and 6, or 3 and 4. And you're just going to guess and check to see which ones will multiply to give you 12, obviously those, and then this setup gives you positive 5 in the middle. And you basically just go back and forth and check. Let's say 2 and 6. If I put 2 and 6 here, that would give me 2 and 12. Well, 12 minus 2 is 10, so that's not going to work. But if I did 6 and 2, well, that's going to give me 6 and 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. That doesn't work. So I know it's not 6 and 2. I didn't try 1 and 12 because that's pretty extreme. So let's try 3 and 4. 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 minus 3 is 5. We have a winner. We want more positives. So that means we want this to be positive, that to be negative. The 8 came from 2 times 4. And the 3 came from 1 times 3. So there's my breakdown. 2x minus 3 times x plus 4. Alright, on number 6, GCF, I'm going to take out an 8 and get y squared minus 4. Now I have a difference of 2 squares, y plus 2, y minus 2, and I am finished. Okay, number 7. Maybe use the ABC method on this one. Negative 6 times 20 is negative 120, and this is negative 7. So I want two numbers to multiply to give me negative 120 and differ by 7. Well, that's just taking your calculator and, looking at the different numbers, like 1 times 120, 2 times 60, 3 times 40, 4 times 30, 5 times 24. Yeah. 6 times 20. 7 does not go in. 8 goes in 15 times, and there we have a winner. 8 minus 15 is negative 7. And since I want negative 7, I want the 15 negative and the 8 positive. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this using these numbers. So let's squeeze this in here. No, that's not going to work. Okay, so I'm going to write 20x squared. Sorry, technical issues. 20x. Try this again. 20x squared. Sorry, I have some technical issues. So now I'm going to rewrite the negative 7x as minus 15x plus 8x minus 6. And now I'm going to group these two and group these two and use the GCF concept. So what goes into 20 and 15? 5. X squared and x? X. Now I divide. 4x plus 3. Sorry, 4x minus 3. Now, the nice thing is with this method, I know this has to be 4x minus 3. I can put it right away. Now I can ask, 8 divided by what is 4? Positive 2. Look those up. Oh, I forgot my x out here. That should be 5x. So 5x plus 2 times 4x minus 3. And that's my answer. 5x plus 2 times 4x minus 3. Alright, number 8, pretty simple. It's a sum of two squares. It's going to look just like a difference of two squares. That's first, x plus 7 and x minus 7. The only thing is, since it's a sum, I need to throw in my i's. Okay, simplify I to 63. So remember, first off, I'm going to come over here to the right side. I to the first is just itself, I. I squared, you should remember, is negative 1. Now, if you don't have this chart memorized, I to the third is created by multiplying these two. Because 2 plus 1 is 3. So what's negative 1 times I? Negative I. And the very important one for what we're doing now is, whoa. Okay, I don't know what's happening right now. Sorry, the board went all out of whack. The most important one for what we're doing right now is I to the fourth equals 1. Right? So, we want to remove these in groups of 4. How many groups of 4 are in 63? Well, 4 times 15 equals 60. So we can just throw all those away. 60 of our i's go away because every group of 4 is 1. So that's just a bunch of 1 times 1 times 1 all the way up. 15 groups of 1s. How many are left? Well, 63 minus 60 leaves 3. So that's I to the third power, which simply equals negative I. 41. Well, 4 times 10 is 40. So we're going to throw all those away. How many are left? Just one I to the first. But we can't forget this 6 out here, so it's 6I. Now here we're going to multiply the numbers, 18. And I times I is I squared. But this is also negative 18 because it's negative 6 times 3. Now remember, this is really negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 18 is positive 18. Okay, I'm going to distribute this negative here and here. So it gives me 4 minus 7I minus 5 plus 2I. I'm going to join numbers and i's. I'm going to always write the number first. So remember, we always write in this format, a plus or minus bi. So 4 minus 5 is negative 1. And negative 7i plus 2i is negative 5i. And that's my answer. Here I'm going to distribute. 6 times 4 is 24. The I tags along. 6 times 2 is 12. I squared. I like to put that in parentheses. Remind myself it's negative 1. We're just going to make the 12 negative. And remember, we always put that first. So it's negative 12 plus 24i. Now I'm going to distribute or FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. Hey, Stewie. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 2i is 6i. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20i. And then negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. And then the I times I is I squared, which is a negative 1. I'm going to combine these two. This negative is going to make negative 10 positive, which is going to add to the 12 to make 22. Minus 14i. 6 minus 20. Alright, our good old friend the conjugates. We got to get rid of this 2 plus I. We do that by multiplying by 2 minus I, top and bottom. Now on the top I'm going to distribute the 7 and get 14 minus 7i. And on the bottom, I'm going to get 2 times 2, which is 4. Positive times negative is negative. I squared, which remember is negative 1. Well, if you subtract the negative 1, that's really 5. So that's 14 minus 7i over 5. You could also write that as 14 fifths minus 7 fifths I. That's the more technical form of writing it. Doing it again, except this time I have a little bit more to do on the top. I'm multiplying by 3 plus 2i. Alright, so I'm going to put these both in parentheses, so when I FOIL, I remember to do everything. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 2i is 10i. 3 times I is 3i. And 2i times I is plus 2i squared, which is negative 1. On the bottom, 3 times 3 is 9. Plus times negative is negative. 2 times 2 is 4. I squared, which again is negative 1. So on the top, I have 15 minus 2, because the plus 2 is going to become negative, and we put the number first. That's 13. And then 10i plus 30i is 13i. And at the bottom, I'm going to get 9 plus 4, which is 13. Well, this 13 really goes with both these. Because if I wrote it, I could write 13 over 13 plus 13i over 13. Well, 13 divided by itself is 1 plus 1i, or just I. Now, number 17. Remember on this one, all we have to do is multiply by I over I. That's all. Nothing else. It's that simple. Which is going to give us 7i over 3i squared, which is negative 1. So that basically makes this 7i over negative 3. Or you could write it just as negative 7/3 I. Either way is fine. Alright. Now, in this method, you can use square root property or factoring. And in fact, on number 18, I'm going to show you both. If we subtract 13 from both sides, we get x squared equals 4. Now, be careful. You just can't say this is 2, because remember, when you square root both sides, you must always, when you're doing an equation, put plus or minus. The other method is, if you subtracted the 17 from both sides, you get x squared minus 4 equals 0. That's a simple difference of two squares, x plus 2, x minus 2. Set them both equal to 0, and you get negative 2 and positive 2. So you get the same answer either way, just two different ways of doing it. I'm going to move the negative 10 over, so I get x plus 4 squared equals 18. Square root both of those, cancels. X plus 4 equals plus or minus. Remember, this is going to break down to 9 and 2. 3 root 2. Then I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides and get x equals negative 4 plus or minus 3 root 2. Number 20. Again, I can use any method I want. I'm just going to break this down and factor it, but first I'm going to pull out an 8 to make my life easy. Makes it much easier to find those numbers. So I need two numbers to multiply to give me 15 that differ by 2. Well, that's 5 and 3. Now remember, I want more positives and fewer negatives. Now I just set them both equal to 0, which you can see what that's going to be. X equals negative 5, x equals positive 3. Technically, if you're showing your work, of course, you put x plus 5 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0, and so on. Number 21 is a difference of two squares. So right off the bat, you can go right into factoring it. 2x minus 7, 2x plus 7. Don't forget to equal 0. Then you set them both equal to 0. And then you subtract 7, and you divide by 2. And you add 7 and divide by 2. And there's your two answers. Remember, at any point you need to, hit pause if you need to slow it down. I'm going to move the 48x over by subtraction and put it in the middle. X squared minus 48x plus 5 equals 0. Now this is one where you might want to do the ABC method. This is 135 and negative 48. And you start breaking it down, 1 times 135. 2 does not go into 135. 3 times 45. And there, bingo, we've already got it. Because we want two numbers that add up to negative 48. So they're both going to be negative. All right. Now, I'm going to write it 27x squared. And now I'm going to break this up into those two numbers. Minus 3x and minus 45x. And then I'm going to bring the 5 down. I group these two, and I group these two. What goes into 27 and 3? That'd be 3. Don't forget to bring the x out. 9x minus 1. Now I know I want 9x minus 1 over here. That's the nice part about this method. So therefore I can say, what do I divide negative 45 by to get 9? And that's a negative 5. And I can confirm 5 divided by negative 5 is negative 1. I hook these two up. 3x minus 5 times 9x minus 1 equals 0. I set them both equal to 0. Move the 5 over. Divide by 3. Move the 1 over and divide by 9. 5/3 and 1/9. Okay. Move the 18 over by addition. Get x squared equals 18. I'm going to square root both sides. And that's going to give me x equals plus or minus 3 root 2. And remember, this breaks down to 9 and 2. And don't forget the plus minus. That is worth points. Okay, 5x squared equals 15x. I'm going to bring this 15x over by subtraction. And then I'm just going to do the GCF. Pull out a 5x, x minus 3. Remember, if you need to put this in parentheses, to remember to put both of these set equal to 0. A lot of people forget this, and that's the easiest one because it's always going to be just 0. And x equals 3. Over here, I'm going to move the 5 over by subtraction. 12x squared minus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Do the ABC method on here. This is going to be negative 60 and negative 4. So I need two numbers and multiply give me 60 that differ by 4. So use my calculator real quick. 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 15, 5 times 12, and 6 times 10. And we have our winner. And it might take about 30 seconds to do that on the calculator. Some of those you'll be able to do in your head pretty easily, probably 2 and 30, 3 and 20. And then you have to type in 4, 5, 6, maybe 4 and 5 in the calculator. So, again, I wanted to end up negative 4, so I want negative 10 and positive 6. So, you can write them in any order. If you write the so here we go, 12x squared. Now, if I put the negative 10 here, it'll have a factor. The 6 and 5 won't. But that's okay. We can pull a 1 out. If you want to put the 6 with the 12 and the negative 10 with the negative 5, it'll still work out just the same. In fact, I'm going to do it one way. You can hit pause. I'm going to erase it and come back and do it the other way just to show you it works out. So I'm going to put the minus 10x plus 6x minus 5 equals 0. I'm going to pull out the GCF. 2, don't forget the x. I keep doing that for some reason today. 6x minus 5. This has got to be 6x minus 5. Well, it already is. But I still need to have something here. Easy. Just pull out plus 1. Hook them up. 2x plus 1, 6x minus 5. Now, I'm going to go back and change it up. I'm going to put the 6 here minus 10x here minus 5 equals 0. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to pull 6x this time out and get 2x minus 1. Does that look familiar? It should. This has to be 2x minus 1 also. What will make this 2? Pulling out a negative 5. Hook them up. There's my same 2. It ends up being just the same thing. So, set them both equal to 0. I'm running out of space, so add 5, divide by 6. Add 1, divide by 2, and there's my answer. Okay, correction to this one. I forgot that this was a positive 6 here. Made a mistake over here, so this should be positive 6 here, which then when you divide, this would be positive 1. Negative divide by negative 5 is positive 1. To make this positive 1, my final answer here would be negative 1/2. All right, so we're going to complete the square coming up here. But to do that, we need the method in here in 25 and 26. So when you're completing the square, remember, it's a very easy concept. It really is once you get the pattern. You take half of this number. And the cheat is, just come down here and write half that number. And remember, you're going to be squaring it. When you square it, that's the number that's going to go up here. Negative 8 squared. So C is 64. Here, x plus 3.5. That's the number that's going to get squared. So C is 12.25. And yes, you can have a decimal. So now we're going to use that method right here to actually complete the square. So the first step is move this number over, the constant. Leave a space. Minus 4x, leave a space, equals positive 6. Now we're going to use that method we just did. And here's the cheat. X minus 2 squared. This is going to be plus 4. Whatever we add to one side, we must add to the other. That gives us 10. Now we just use our square root property. cancels. X minus 2 equals plus or minus square root 10. Nothing simplifies on 10. So my answer is just simply 2 plus or minus root 10. And that's it. Again, move this over. Keep a space. X squared minus 6x, space, equals positive 3. Take half of that middle term. We're going to end up squaring it up here, plus 9. Plus 9 here. Now that gives me 12. Square root both sides. Now in this case, this will break down to 4 and 3. So x minus 3 equals plus or minus 2 root 3. Move the 3 over. X equals 3 plus or minus 2 root 3. Okay, on to the last page here. We're going to factor this. We need two numbers that multiply to give us 12 that add up to 8. Well, that's going to be plus 6 and plus 2. Now, since this is positive, it's a happy parabola, which is opening up. The x-intercepts, we set these both equal to 0. So x plus 6 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0. X is negative 6 and negative 2. Negative 2 and negative 6. Now you should be able to see where the line is going to be right now. It's halfway in between there. The x is a symmetry. But technically the way we do it is we add the two numbers and divide by 2. Remember, always put as an x equals. So that's my line of symmetry, dotted line right there. Now, where is the vertex? Well, the vertex is going to be at negative 4, comma, something. It's going to be on that line. So what we do is we take that negative 4 and plug it in back up here. So negative 4 plus 6, 6 minus 4 is 2. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. So that means the vertex is right there, negative 4. And I actually have enough to generally sketch my graph, but watch. Let the calculator do the heavy lifting for you. There's no reason why you can't real quickly get the board to work. Okay, trash that. So I'm going to put in, no, there we go. No, I don't just want that. Thank you. Sometimes you got to talk to it nicely. So I'll plug in x squared plus 8x plus 12. X squared plus 8x plus 12. And hit graph. And hit table. Why not just verify? So there's some nice points I can get. It's negative 6, 0 I've got. How about negative 5, negative 3? And negative 3, negative 3. And if I want another one up higher, how about negative 1, positive 5? And negative 7, positive 5. And that gives me a really nice idea of what this parabola is going to look like. Now the domain, well, that's left to right. It's going to keep going left, and it's going to keep going right. The range, how low does it go? Negative 4 with a bracket. How high does it go? Forever, infinity. Okay, this one is already factored for you. Okay? This negative tells me it's a sad parabola. It's going to open down. The x-intercepts, set these both equal to 0. So that's x equals 5, x equals 1. And 5. Now hopefully you can see that 3 is halfway in between 1 and 5. But once again, real quickly, we add 5 plus 1 divide by 2, so x equals 3. It's a vertical line. The vertex is therefore at 3 comma something. Now we plug the 3 back in up top. You gotta be careful here when you do this. Alright? It's negative 2 times 3 minus 5 times 3 minus 1. Don't forget that negative 2 out there. So that's negative 2 times negative 2 times 2. So negative 2 times negative 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So that means that's right up here at 8. But that makes sense because it's a sad parabola. It should be going down. The domain, again, is negative infinity to positive infinity. And the range is, how low does it go? Negative infinity. How high does it go? 8, with a bracket. And again, if you want to check on your calculator, you could FOIL that out and distribute negative 2. You can also put it in just the way it is. Negative 2, parentheses, x minus 5, parentheses, parentheses, x minus 1. Close parentheses. Okay, so, sorry. Negative 2, x minus 5, x minus 1. Then hit graph. Looks just like what we have. Hit table. Obviously some huge numbers, but those will work. 0, negative 10, and 6, negative 10. 0, negative 10, and 6, negative 10. And that's enough. That gives us a general idea of where this bad boy is going. And then other names for solutions are x-intercepts,
zeros, and roots.